Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox, and welcome to a new season of Adventures in Compliance. In this season, we are going to review the short stories which appeared in the Strand Magazine from July 1891 to June 1892 and were collected in the book The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Over the next 12 episodes, I will be reviewing each story and mine them for leadership, compliance, and ethical lessons. Today we explore one of Conan Doyle's lesser-known stories, A Case of Identity. And indeed, we look at compliance lessons from this story. The story was released in August 1891, and it's the third story in the collection of the first set of Sherlock Holmes stories entitled The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. I know you'll enjoy this episode. In this story, Mary Sutherland, a typist, approaches Holmes for help after her fiancé, Mr. Angel, mysteriously disappears on the day they were to be married. Holmes agrees to take the case. Sutherland gives Holmes a few letters written by Angel, and Holmes quickly observes that they were written on a typewriter, an odd choice for a personal letter. Also, the writing style is similar to that of her stepfather, James Windibank. Holmes investigates that Angel did not and deduces Angel does not exist and indeed is an alternate identity created by her stepfather. The motive for this strange charade was financial. Mary's stepfather did not want to lose the income he gained from her, as her late mother left her a significant annual income, which would be redirected to her upon her marriage. The stepfather, who was young enough to pass as a man of Mary's age, concocted the alternative identity to court Mary and then conveniently disappear so that he, as the stepfather, could maintain control over Mary's income. Holmes, however, decides not to reveal the truth to Mary to save her from further heartbreak. He suggests that Angel was a scoundrel who did not deserve her, leaving her to hope that he might return to her someday. You probably recognize the storyline about as long as it took Holmes to figure out what was going on here. In studying Miss Sutherland's demeanor, he realizes she is both a nearsighted and, frankly, the elevator doesn't go to the top floor. Investigating her background, he further discovers her stepfather, only 5 years her senior, and a rapturous mother who would love to get her hands on Mr. Sutherland's fortune. He realizes the mysterious Angel could only have met with his fiancée when the stepfather was allegedly out of the country on business, and of course, that's the reason for the typewriter. Given Sutherland's nearsightedness and other issues, it would not really be much work for Windibank to disguise himself. There also appeared to be efforts to seduce her, which of course raises in the reader's mind the firmly planted this tale is less savory of Holmes' many cases. Unfortunately, it's a storyline that we see throughout this case, or rather throughout Sherlock Holmes stories. Holmes knows that Ms. Sutherland will not believe him, and he is aware of Windibank, yet Windibank has not broken any laws as yet. But he does threaten to beat the man within an inch of his life unless the charade is brought to an end. That, and the knowledge one day that Windibank's inequities will catch up with him, will doubtless be enough for Holmes, perhaps even a rope around Windibank's neck. And now Holmes declares there is nothing more for him to do. So what are some of the compliance lessons? Number one, empathy. Obviously, Holmes was very empathetic to Mary Sutherland, and he was able to solve the case by putting himself in the shoes of the victim and understanding her perspective. Compliance professionals should also have the empathy and the ability to understand the perspective of their colleagues, employees, and customers. Or, as Atticus Finch said, walk a mile in a man's shoes. Number two, observation. Holmes uses his power of observation to gather information and uncover the truth behind the case of identity. Obviously, compliance leaders also need to be observant and pay attention to the details so they can provide valuable insights. This story, although short, does show Holmes' problem-solving skills, which he used to solve this case quite well. And although a criminal justice solution was not presented, there really was a legal justice solution presented as Holmes made clear to Windibank what would happen to him if he continued this conduct. Communication skills. Holmes communicated effectively with the victim and the other characters in the story, and he's able to get information he needed to solve the case. Communication professionals should have strong communication skills, as they are crucial for building relationships and achieving success. Number 5, respect for the law. Throughout the story, Holmes showed great respect for the law and acted within the bounds of the legal system. Obviously, compliance leaders must also respect the law and act ethically and set that example for others throughout their organization. This is Tom Fox again. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Adventures in Compliance. I hope you will join us again for our next episode of this series where we take a look at, I hope you'll join us again next week when we take up the adventure of Boscombe Valley. I know you'll enjoy the next episode. Adventures in Compliance is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network. We have 2 new podcasts that I would like to tell you about. The first is 10 for 10, a weekly wrap-up of the top 10 news stories and report from Impact 2023, which are recordings I made at Impact 2023 with the speakers, panelists, guests, and contributors to that conference. I know you'll enjoy both of these new podcasts on the Compliance Podcast Network.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.